the unspoken embrace. Daniel had always believed that a hug was nothing more than a friendly gesture, a simple crossing of arms to share warmth. That was until the day he met Elena. It was a crisp autumn evening when Daniel attended a modest art exhibit downtown. The gallery's soft lighting and murmured conversations created an atmosphere both intimate and enigmatic. As he wandered among the paintings, his eyes caught sight of a woman whose presence seemed to command the room without uttering a single word. Elena stood near a vibrant abstract piece, her eyes reflecting both intelligence and mischief. When their gazes met, something unspoken passed between them. After a few moments of polite exchange, Elena extended an invitation to Daniel that was as sudden as it was unexpected. As she stepped toward him with open arms, the hug that followed was warm and deliberate. In that brief, enveloping moment, Daniel felt not just her body against his but a silent inquiry, a test, almost. He wondered, was she testing his confidence? Was this an evaluation of his ease with closeness, an unspoken challenge to see if he could embrace vulnerability without flinching? For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow. Daniel's mind raced through memories of past rejections and hesitant greetings, and he realized that in that moment, his response was more than instinct, it was a declaration of who he was. He returned her embrace with quiet assurance, allowing his arms to settle around her in a manner that said, "I'm here, I'm comfortable, and I'm ready." Though the contact lasted only a few seconds, it left him with a curious warmth and the dawning notion that perhaps Elena's hug was a secret conversation, one that spoke in whispers rather than words. Over the following weeks, Daniel found himself crossing paths with Elena in unexpected places, a quiet bookstore on rainy afternoons, a bustling cafe on lazy weekends, even a small community garden tucked away from the city's hurried pace. And with each meeting, there came a hug that carried its own nuances. One afternoon, while sharing coffee over gentle chatter about literature and dreams, Elena's hug held a different quality. It was as if she were gently probing the walls around Daniel's heart. Her arms encircled him briefly, and he sensed that beyond the physical warmth, she was searching for something deeper, a glimpse into his emotional landscape. In that fleeting embrace, Daniel realized that Elena was checking his emotional availability. It was subtle, more a caress than a clench, as though her hug was an unspoken question. Are you truly present with me? Are you open to feeling, to connection, to intimacy? In the quiet aftermath, as Daniel sipped his coffee and watched the steam curl upward, he reflected on how that simple gesture seemed to ask for authenticity. He wondered if his guarded heart would ever be free enough to let someone in completely. Yet, in that moment, he felt a cautious stirring, a promise that vulnerability might be the key to a richer, fuller life. A few days later, at a friend's lively rooftop gathering, the dynamics shifted once again. The evening was filled with laughter, music, and the occasional burst of spontaneous dancing under the stars. Amid the revelry, Elena's hug came not as a surprise but as a purposeful act, a declaration of control. In a crowded space where many flirtations and casual touches blended into the night, her hug was deliberate and measured. It was her way of establishing a physical connection on her own terms. As she stepped in close, her hands resting lightly on his shoulders, Daniel felt that this embrace was less about an accidental meeting of arms and more about setting boundaries. In that moment, it was clear that Elena was the one in charge of how the physical closeness would unfold. She defined the space between them with quiet authority, and he instinctively respected it. Her hug said, "I choose to be here with you. I decide when and how this moment unfolds." And in that controlled intimacy, Daniel discovered that trust was built not by chance but by the careful negotiation of closeness, each hug a gentle contract of mutual respect. Then came another encounter, one that Daniel would later recall with a rush of both excitement and introspection. It was a brisk winter evening when a mutual friend invited him to an outdoor concert. The stage was lit by a dazzling array of lights, and the air buzzed with anticipation. During a break in the music, as the crowd surged together, Elena approached him once again. This time, her hug was different. It was longer, lingering in a way that made Daniel's senses heighten. As they embraced, Daniel became acutely aware of the subtleties, the way her perfume mingled with the crisp night air, the gentle pressure of her body aligning with his, and the effortless way their forms seemed to complement one another. It was as if, in that hug, she was quietly gauging their physical chemistry. There was an electric quality, an unspoken evaluation of whether the two of them could truly be in sync. In that moment, he felt the sparks of possibility. Was this a silent measurement of compatibility? Were their bodies saying, "Yes, we fit together," in the language of touch? The physicality of that moment was layered with meaning. It wasn't just a greeting, it was an assessment, a tasting of what could be, a delicate experiment in intimacy. The memory of that embrace lingered long after the concert ended, leaving Daniel with a heady mix of anticipation and wonder. A few weeks later, the calendar brought him to a bustling afternoon market. Stalls filled with fresh flowers, homemade pastries, and vibrant crafts lined the streets. Amid the cheerful chaos, Elena's presence was unmistakable, a calm oasis in the midst of urban clamor. As fate would have it, they crossed paths near a stall selling antique trinkets. Without a word, she drew him into a warm embrace, one that occurred right there in the public eye. This hug was different once again. In the open space of the market, where curious eyes might glance their way, Elena's embrace seemed to carry a message beyond the intimacy of two people. It was as if, with that gesture, she was sending a subtle signal to everyone around: "This man is important to me." The public nature of the hug transformed it into a kind of status update, a declaration of closeness that spoke volumes to onlookers. In that moment, the hug became a silent broadcast, a statement of inclusion in her inner circle, and a way of marking him as someone special in her life. For Daniel, who had always been a quiet observer, this public display stirred a mixture of pride and apprehension. He realized that every touch carried meaning, not just between two hearts, but in the way the world perceived their connection. Yet, the most profound of all came unexpectedly on a rainy afternoon a month later. Daniel was leaving his favorite corner cafe when he saw Elena waiting at the doorway. The rain had softened the city into a watercolor blur, and as he stepped outside, she greeted him with a hug that felt both tender and monumental. There was a pause in time as the world around them faded into the background. In that embrace, every nuance, the rhythm of their breathing, the warmth shared between them, the gentle pressure of her hands, wove together to create a memory that would be etched deep within him. This final hug was more than a fleeting touch, it was a moment that crystallized all the subtle messages of the past weeks. It was as if Elena, with that silent gesture, was creating a mental photograph, a sensory milestone that he could return to whenever doubts crept in or loneliness whispered in the quiet of the night. In that embrace, Daniel felt the echoes of every previous encounter, the test of confidence, the probing for emotional availability, the controlled physical connection, the spark of chemistry, and even the subtle public announcement of their bond. All of these threads wove together to form a tapestry of intimacy and understanding that neither of them had to speak aloud. Later, as he sat in his modest apartment, the memory of Elena's embrace played over in his mind like a cherished film. He realized that what he had once dismissed as a simple hug was in fact a conversation in a language without words. Every time she reached out, she was sharing a piece of herself, a silent narrative of trust, vulnerability, and connection. And each hug, with its unique inflections and meanings, invited him to look deeper into the realms of confidence, emotional openness, personal boundaries, physical chemistry, and even the way intimacy is communicated to the world. Daniel began to understand that a woman's hug is a sophisticated art form. It's not merely an act of physical contact but a nuanced performance, a secret code that speaks of one's inner world. In her warm embrace, Elena was telling him stories of her past, her hopes, and her dreams. She was inviting him to see the man he could be if he allowed himself to be truly present. Her hugs were both questions and answers, each one a gentle challenge to shed pretense and reveal the raw, unguarded truth. As the seasons changed and the city moved forward, Daniel carried with him a newfound appreciation for the language of touch. he no longer saw a hug as just a fleeting act of physicality, but as a doorway into the depths of human connection. In the silent spaces where words faltered, the unspoken embrace of another could speak volumes, if only one was willing to listen. And so, on quiet evenings when the wind whispered through the streets and memories danced like shadows on the wall, Daniel would recall each embrace as if reading a cherished letter. Elena's hugs had transformed his understanding of intimacy, teaching him that every gesture, every seemingly simple act of affection, carries layers of meaning waiting to be discovered. It was in these moments of physical connection that he found clarity, that vulnerability, when met with warmth and trust, is the gateway to true understanding and connection. In the end, the unspoken embrace became a testament to the beauty of human interaction, a reminder that sometimes, the most profound conversations happen without a single word being spoken. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others. Your support helps us keep creating valuable content. Thank you.